making noise as he ruckuses his way into spot number 15. God, I did not think that clearly. What is Legacy United Ruckus from the Doom and Destruction 2-pack with him and Bludgeon. And as I stated with Windsweeper, I didn't care for the Bludgeon, considering it was based on a design from IDW that is arguably my least favorite version of Bludgeon in terms of design, but not in terms of character, because Bludgeon is still a good character. But onto Ruckus, he is a really good and heavy retool of Legacy Evolution Beachcomber, a mini-bot, mind you. And of all the mini-bots to turn into a Decepticon TriggerCon, they did a lot to where he looks like a new figure. He looks like a new figure, but he's reusing the thighs, the arms, and the wheels. Everything about him looks like a new figure. And he feels like a new figure. He doesn't feel like he came from Beachcomber, which is surprising. And with that said, they remembered to give him his TriggerCon gimmick back with the, weapons, while still keeping this blaster from Beachcomber, which is the only thing they kept from that mold. And again, surprising that this came from Beachcomber because he doesn't look like it. I mean, transformation is simple, design is simple, but he's a really fun figure. He's a really fun figure. He's a bit dynamic. And again, the TriggerCon gimmick with his shoulder cannons, which they tried to replicate with Crankcase, but came off as little nubs, and with Windsweeper, his guns ended up becoming Target Masters that I put on his arms, as you saw from earlier. Now, I would have put Ruckus and Windsweeper together, considering I now have all three of the TriggerCons. But considering Ruckus had the most work done to him, not just being a new head redeco, but a full-on retool to where he does not look like he came from Beachcomber. And I love that. I love what they did with this figure. Details are good. Everything's on point. I don't think any more can be said about him. I believe it's time to jack off as the Target exclusive Origin Wheeljack makes his way onto spot number 14. Now, this is one of the few of new molds that we got in Legacy United, and I mean new molds because this Wheeljack transforms into his original, I wouldn't say original, but his Cybertronian alt mode we saw in More Than Meets the Eye Part 1 in G1. Shoulder cannon, he comes with 2 discs that he did use in his alt mode, as well as being replicated as the Dominator discs he used on Devastator in an episode of Season 2 of G1. In addition to this blast shield, which just slaps on his back, and as you saw from there, he does fall short of being a good Voyager in terms of, he's very back heavy due to how he has to transform into that Cybertronian alt mode. And my copy is missing one of the wings, so unfortunately, despite being higher up due to being a new mold, he's not higher up like most of the others that you will see in the top 10 spot. But as he stands, really good. And for those of you who have Origins Bumblebee or are looking for the about to be released reissue of Origin B, I recommend trying to track him down. Track him, Bumblebee, and Jazz, and if you have your Siege Seekers from 2019, then I think you'll be good with a More Than Meets the Eye Part 1 cast and crew. Taking a joint spot at number 13 goes to Legacy United Deluxe Gears and the redeco/retool of the GoBot Smallfoot. I believe that's her name, I could be wrong, because this one came in a 3-pack with 2 other GoBots, that being Pathfinder and Treads, which will get honorable mentions as both of them are reusing previous and actually good molds. Now, Gears, specifically, as that's the one we are focusing on, as she is included for the sake of that, well, same mold, released in the same year, and everyone was waiting since 2021's Kingdom line for a new Gears. Now, for those of you who need a reminder, we got Huffer and Warpath, and later Pipes in the Kingdom line, and in Earthrise we had gotten Cliffjumper and a Netflix Bumblebee. But after that, seeing as Hasbro is giving us more of the mini bots, they finally decided to give us Gears in 2024. Now, as expected, he does live up to expectations. He has really good articulation with the arms, hands, waist, legs, decent head articulation, and good weapon. So it's what you expect from a mini bot. Not too much to run home about, and with Smallfoot, the only new thing is really just the retooled face and visor to make her accurate to her appearance in the GoBots. As for those of you who don't know, the GoBot characters are not technically Transformers, but they were meant to be a rival to them back in the 1980s until they were brought over and owned by Hasbro in the 2000s. But as it stands, this is a really good mold, and for those who are trying to complete your 1984 G1 Autobots, I highly recommend him. Stinging his way into spot number 12 goes to Animated Bumblebee, who was one of the first figures released for Legacy United, and arguably a sign as to what Legacy United was doing after Legacy Evolution and Legacy Year 1. Because now, is he a good update on the original design? Yes and no. He does take some liberties with the transformation and, some parts that may be inaccurate, but I will say he's Now, I don't like collecting a lot of Bumblebee figures, which unfortunately is due to the fact that he has different designs and Hasbro insists on making toys of him. Now, for animated, I used to own the original deluxe Bumblebee. So for me, with that revelation in mind, I'm actually glad I own this figure because he comes with his stinger, which as you can see are combined due to the fact that he can't really do the stingers properly as the arms work a different way, or you have to use the rocket boosters, which I'm glad they included, to make the stingers as handheld weapons in order for, him to actually wield them separately rather than, having them together like this. Or with the stingers, they can become effects for the boosters, and I feel like this is specifically for alt mode, but I will showcase it here, though I think I am going to have to do this so it doesn't fall. But for those of you who own this figure, you get the idea, because I will admit this is one of the better figures to come out of Legacy, not just Legacy United, but as a whole, because even though he is essentially the size of an old Legends or Scout class figure from back in the good old days of the late 2000s, early 2010s, I like the transformation. I like how they didn't, do what they did with the Transformers Prime characters and quote-unquote G1ify them, because, you can still tell this is Bumblebee from Transformers Animated. And overall, I do recommend him, even if, he is a bit on the short side. Taking the joint 11 spot goes to Legacy United Deluxe Class Rescue Bots Chase and Prime Cliffjumper. Now, when I said why Cliffjumper wasn't in the lower spot with his 4-pack mates, Cyberverse Tarn, G1 Squeezeplay, and Prototype Toy Colors Tarantulas, this is why. Because he's, again, as expected, a retool of Chase, but a really good one. Because they gave him the horns for the alt mode, they took away the sirens from Chase, and they made it so that you can do the triple barrel cannon effect, because for those of you who remember, in Transformers Prime, when he was alive, Cliffjumper's arms would turn into cannons with 3 barrels, and that's something you can replicate with this, depending on which, thing you use, which, crap. Now, it's not like the original Transformers Prime figure. Now, admittedly, he is one of the better Transformers Prime updates because, while he doesn't come close, at least in terms of robot mode, because colors are spot on, the head is spot on, the vehicle mode is more so spot on. And this figure, aside from Squeeze Play and maybe Tarn, is the only reason why people wanted that set, because I, being a Transformers Prime fan, really liked Cliffjumper's design and character, when he was alive, of course. And, the claws that, carry over into Cliffjumper from Chase, this is something Chase used in the Rescue Bots cartoon, and it's been a while since I've seen Rescue Bots, but to be fair, that's really due to it being more aimed at a younger audience, like myself when I was a kid getting into Transformers. And while it was a decent introduction, there were no Decepticons in Rescue Bots, for the obvious reason. But as it stands, for those who want a Rescue Bots chase, because we are going to get a new Heat Wave in the next toy line, Age of the Primes, as I am recording this video, recording and editing it. Again, as it stands, we got a really good figure and a really good retool out of that figure. So, enough said. Okay, we have reached the top 10 of this ranking. And taking number 10 spot, swooping down from the heavens, is Leader Class Tigerhawk. Now, this figure initially surprised me, because I like what they did. Being the fusion of Airazor and Tigatron from Beast Wars. Again, for those of you who have not seen Beast Wars, please go watch it. I recommend it. This was a really well done update for a character who was only in the final few episodes of the cartoon. But he did leave an impression, because while his original toy was cancelled, hence why he ended up being offed in the final episode, his legacy did live on. And I do hope we get a Universe Razorclaw redeco from this, because I really, really love this figure. I really love this figure. I like what they did. Now, the wings, these can become blades. I did add blast effects to his cannons, and then his arm cannon right here. Try to put him in a sort of flying pose, even though I don't have any flight stands to emulate that. My issue, however, is the lack of wrist joints. But even with that said, I like his complex transformation, considering his simple design. I like the articulation elsewhere with the waist and everything else here. Again, transformation is not too complex to where, you want to throw him against the wall. And again, he's a really great figure that I have yet to have picked up since then, which I have not appreciated this figure as much as I should have. But I still recommend him for those who want more Beast Wars, especially those characters from seasons 2 and 3, as this isn't the only Fusor character we got, because there is another Fusor who is higher than him that we got in the following wave, who will make it into my top 5. Taking the number 9th spot is going to the G1 Triple Changing Autobot Sandstorm. Now, out of all the G1 Triple Changers we've gotten, Siege Astrotrain, Legacy Blitzwing, Siege/Shooter Series 86 Springer, and now him, I'd say, to me, they've all been bangers, though that just leaves Octane and Broadside being the last G1 Triple Changers we need, not counting the G1 Horrorcons, Apeface and Snapdragon, who are also Triple Changers, and whatever other Triple Changers we got in the future. In terms of the G1 Triple Changers, I'd say Sandstorm is quite a worthy update. Now, obviously, this isn't the Thrilling 30s version. People, like that figure. He was sharing the same mold as Springer, which, in I think, kind of brought the figure down. Me, however, I like the more G1 based Sandstorm. Now, in terms of G1 accuracy, they decided to go with the battle mask that he used on his original toy rather than the mouth he had in the cartoon and subsequent G1 media like in IDW's comics. That doesn't bother me because I kind of think Sandstorm looks better with a mask than a mouth, especially since, despite being mostly cartoon accurate, he is a bit toy accurate with the face. So he's a good mix. His transformation is good, like the other triple changers, in my opinion. Articulation is good. He comes with, his G1 blaster, this little arm mounted blaster that he used in his debut episode of G1 Season 3, and this roll cage for his alt modes, which I think is actually kind of fitting considering he transforms into a helicopter and a dune buggy. Now, obviously, not everyone was sold on him, considering the Thrilling 30s figure exists. I think this figure is a lot better than that figure, but, it depends on personal preference. Some people just like the more modern takes rather than, straight up updates of just the original G1 designs. In my opinion, I think Sandstorm and the other triple changers we got in, this goes for all of them, not counting the Titans Return figures, have been great updates for really good characters. Making his way onto spot number 8 goes to Cybertron Hotshot. Now, this is one of my favorite figures to come out of Legacy United and is one of the better, well, I wouldn't even say better, Unicron Trilogy updates that we've gotten, because he comes with his cyber key, comes with, his obvious missile launcher. Now, I never owned the original Cybertron Hotshot, so as someone who, while I was born in 2003, I didn't grow up on Transformers Cybertron, but as someone who eventually watched the Unicron Trilogy, and Hotshot being one of my favorite characters since then, I love this design, and I love this figure. I mean, he does fall short in some areas, but that's really due to the limitations of the design. He is quite well articulated, as evident by the pose I was putting him in. And yes, I did flip up the wings, and by wings I mean these, which are intended for his alt mode. Again, he comes with a cyber key, unlike Override and Metroplex from Legacy Year 1, and those two were great updates to their original Cybertron toys based on how they appeared in the actual cartoon itself. Now, there is one Cybertron figure that also got made that beat Hotshot, and that's really due to how well articulated he is and the fact that I just like his transformation a bit more. Not to discredit this figure, because I really love this figure, along with the Armada Hotshot we got in Legacy Evolution. I just pray that they don't reissue the Hound retool we got of Hotshot and give us a better defense team figure of Hotshot, which I still own that figure, though that's a figure I am likely going to sell off. But with that said, as someone who never owned the original Hotshot in his first form, which is what this is, I recommend him to not just Unicron Trilogy fans, but also fans getting into Transformers and want, a good deluxe-sized Autobot. Flying their way into spot number 7 is a joint between Legacy Cyberverse Windblade and Slipstream. Now, while I do wish Slipstream was a new mold, as she has been long overdue for one, of course, I'll still say she's, a really good figure, because, sharing the Windblade mold in Windblade is one of my favorite deluxes to come out of Legacy United, and as someone who never owned a Windblade figure, this is not my definitive figure of that character, especially considering she had a much bigger role in Cyberverse than she did in her previous iterations. Now, obviously, Windblade comes with a sword, and Slipstream comes with both a new head, a new head and rays, null rays based on, you know, the Seekers, you know, head obviously based on, well, I wouldn't say previous iterations, but more so, you know, typical Seeker design, considering she is supposed to be one of the Seekers, which is why I think she would have benefited from a new mold, preferably a Voyager. But as a deluxe, I think she's not a bad retool. And again, I like the transformation, which is something I feel like I keep forgetting to say in my video. I like the weapons, I like the sculpt, the detail. Obviously, Slipstream is supposed to be Cyberverse as well, but it comes off less as Cyberverse and more so just, you know, borrowing Windblade's design, just so Hasbro could, you know, get her out there, which, I mean, I get it. They wanted to get Slipstream out on the market for once, since her Legends toy released by Takara a few years ago is quite elusive on the aftermarket now. So Hasbro gave us a chance to have a somewhat better Slipstream at mass retail, and she wasn't limited to an exclusive. Windblade, you know, typical Windblade, but again, probably the best Windblade figure we're gonna get, even if she is based on her Cyberverse design. And again, really great mold. I just wish they did more with Slipstream, but as she and Windblade stand, I recommend both of them, more so Windblade, but it's whatever. It does not matter which of the two you get, because you're still gonna get a great figure regardless. Clawing his way through spot number 6 is Transformers Prime Thundertron from Legacy United, and as an update to the original toy, which I never owned, he is the best Transformers Prime update we've gotten, not counting Legacy Skyquake and Dreadwing, both of which I regard as the better Legacy updates for Transformers Prime. Now, you know, Transformers Prime fans will complain about how, oh, they ruined Transformers Prime. I don't want to hear that, because, you know, even though I grew up on Transformers Prime, I'm not someone who's going to hate that there are inaccuracies with some of the Prime-based characters that appeared in Legacy. Now, with Thundertron, he gets away with it because while he was designed for the cartoon, he never appeared in the cartoon. So therefore, Hasbro was allowed to get away with doing a new mold for Thundertron. Now, while the other Transformers Prime characters have gotten new molds or retools of other figures, they didn't come close. And again, like I said, Thundertron only gets away with it because he was never in the cartoon and was a toy-only character, which, I mean, I feel like was a good thing, because as someone who never owned the original toy and probably was going to track it down until this figure came out, I think it was one of the better additions to Transformers Legacy, especially considering he is the captain/leader of the Starseekers, which we eventually got at the end of 2024. And while he did get a more Prime accurate redeco/retool with a new head, because, you know, this head is not really Prime accurate, it's really just a stylization, but the idea is still there. I love the transformation, I love the sword, I like how you can still recreate the peg leg with his right foot, which, I mean, is my preferred look, but, you know, for stability, I will keep the foot on half the time. And as he stands, he's the best Transformers Prime update until we get another Transformers Prime character in Age of the Primes. Coming in heavy at spot number 5 is a joint spot with Animated Optimus and Motormaster, and I love this mold. If they do a Toxitron and a Nemesis Prime from Animated with this figure, I'm buying it, because I really love what they did with Optimus. They didn't make him, you know, G1ified like they did with Bumblebee and Prowl, though with Bumblebee and Prowl, they kind of took some liberties, but they weren't like the Transformers Prime characters, because Animated, you know, despite being stylized, is able to work in the main line. Now with Motormaster, I'm glad I got Motormaster because the original toy of animated Motormaster, or as he was called, the Motormaster, with a space in the name, was a BotCon exclusive back in 2011, along with animated versions of the other Stunticons. So yes, the Stunticons were introduced in the Transformers animated universe, but all of them were retools of existing Autobots, with the exception of one being a retool of Lockdown. But with that aside, it is still a good thing that animated Optimus got made in Legacy United, because I never owned the original Optimus Prime toy, and as a big fan of Transformers Animated, I had to get him. Now, yes, he doesn't have a mask. He just has his face that he had in the show. And with Motormaster, I really love the dark colors. I really love the dark colors. I will say that much. And the more Motormaster head with the sort of Macho Man mustache they gave to him, as that's how he was kind of described as in the Stunticon Job comic that he and the other Stunticons appeared in. But with that said, I love the transformation. I love the extended handle for the axe, and that the back of the axe is blast effect compatible, as you guys see here. And I expected Motormaster to come with the same axe as Optimus, since I don't think Motormaster in fiction ever really had any other weapons, and his original toy was obviously a retool of Optimus. Now, I do wish both came with the trailers, but as they are as Voyagers, that would have been adding much, and that would have made them leader class figures. And I don't think anyone is really asking for leader class figures of this version of Optimus, unless he came with a trailer. But with that said, I cannot express how much I'm saying it. I just love this mold. I love this mold, and I love what they did with Motormaster especially, but I still love Optimus. Scheming and betraying his way onto spot number 4, and this was a really close one, because he was going to be my number 3, until I realized the one I now put at number 3, who's supposed to be number 4, was a bit more anticipated, because he's a Beast Wars character many fans wanted. But as this figure stands, it is Cybertron Starscream, a worthy update to the original Voyager based on his appearance in the cartoon. Now, this figure is really dynamic. I really love the articulation, especially in the legs. Now, mistransforming the feet gets more, along with the ankle joints. The vertex blades, he comes with a cyber key. Now, the cyber key doesn't, go into the blades. It just goes into the back. It doesn't unlock anything like the original toy, but, that aside, he also comes with this blaster that he didn't use in the Cybertron cartoon, but it does exist on his character model for that series. I love the transformation. I really love this figure. Like, this is probably my favorite of the Cybertron updates, because the amount of times I transformed him, played with him, as evident by the fact that I put the blades on his actual forearms rather than the shoulders. Speaking of the shoulders, butterfly joints. Butterfly joints, wrist rotation, like, I love what they did with this figure. And I used to own the Titan class version of Starscream, not the Cybertron version, the G1 redeco that came with, a crown. And I say G1 redeco because I think that was an exclusive, but I still had that mold, and it was something I had since 2014. So as someone with a bit of a bias towards this design, and excuse me for shaking my camera, again, I really love this figure. And I have a bit of a bias towards this design and, the Unicron Trilogy version of Starscream, because I have the Armada version, and I like while Cybertron Starscream is your typical Starscream, whereas Armada was a better character, and we're not going to talk about Energon. If they ever do an Energon Starscream, that is the one design of Unicron Trilogy Starscream that I will not get, unless I feel like it. But again, as he stands, as a new mold, I really love this version of Starscream. I love transformation, articulation, the gimmicks. He came with Cyber Key. I just really enjoy this figure. bolting his way onto spot number 3. And again, like I said with Cybertron Starscream, this was a close one because he was actually my number 4. But I swapped him with Starscream because he is a character that people were asking for after we got Black Arachnia in the Kingdom toy line in 2021, and that is Beast Wars Silverbolt. I love this figure, just like Starscream. Like, he's very dynamic. I had to put him in this, sort of action pose. Now, he's not that bad. Actually, why would I even say he's that bad? Him and Starscream surprised me as Voyagers, because this is a Voyager. Now, there will be an upgrade kit coming for, his wings and, his missile swords. But as he stands without them, there's a reason why he made it into my top 10, if not top 5, and will actually make it into my top 20 favorite figures of 2024, as I'm just ranking the legacy figures by themselves without, any studio series or any other part of the Generations line. Again, as he stands, this is one of the best Beast Wars updates we've gotten, especially considering how cartoon accurate they've been. And, while they're not like the original toys, as I never owned the original Beast Wars toys, any of them for that matter, again, this is one of the best updates, not just of Beast Wars, but that we've seen in a long time. And as soon as I got him, I had to put him and Black Arachnia together. Because, for those of you who have watched Beast Wars, Silverbolt and Black Arachnia kind of got into a relationship, which continued into the unfortunate sequel that is Beast Machines, which we are not going to talk about. But with that said, I kind of hope they do a Transmetal Black Arachnia, since, they've been tapping into the Season 2 and Season 3 designs with Silverbolt, Tigerhawk, and Transmetal 2 Megatron, and some of the Japanese Beast Wars characters. But with that said, I really love Silverbolt. Like, he surprised me. Making his way onto spot number 2, and almost coming close to being number 1 if it weren't for the Titan of the year, is going to Commander Class Magmatron from Beast Wars Neo. And as another Japanese Beast Wars character, this was a surprise addition to the line, and being that he's a Commander Class, he surprised me. Like, he exceeded my expectations. I love the obvious hand and finger articulation. I love the transformation with his 3 dinosaur alt modes, and that you can make a dino orgy, as, it would kind of be described, considering it's, 3 dinosaurs in one in both robot and, the combined mode, because the combined mode of the 3 dinosaurs is a wacky one, a crazy one that I actually really, really enjoy. The ratchet joints, stiff, tight, he feels like, an older leader class figure or supreme class figure. I mean, I have little to no complaints with him, considering, again, he is a commander, and one that I'm pretty sure took fans by surprise, especially fans who watched Beast Wars Neo and Beast Wars 2nd, and I, for one, am all here for it, because as a Beast Wars fan, I would like to see some of the Japanese characters like Magmatron and Tasmania Kid, Lyle Convoy, Beast Wars 2nd Skywarp, the latter we got in Kingdom. I'm here for these kind of figures and these updates. Now, admittedly, the sword is on rubber plastic, so it's prone to bending. But even that isn't enough to deter me from this figure. And this, there are things that appeal to me, and then there are things that don't appeal to me. And depending on what appeals to me, yeah, I really love this figure. The articulation, the transformation, like, everything. Enough said. Taking the number 1 spot to no one's surprise, but I'm pretty sure this should be everyone's surprise because it depends on your list, is the Titan class Tidal Wave, based on his appearance from Transformers Armada. We may get an Energon Redeco down the line, but as it stands, we got this. And this figure blew me away. This figure blew me away because never before did a Titan class figure take me by surprise, but became one that I really, really love and enjoy. As someone who never grew up with Transformers Armada, despite being born in 2003 when the series concluded, this is now a holy grail in my collection that I am never selling. And the fact that he has parts that replicate his alt mode that can combine with Armada Megatron or Galvatron, depending on which one you have, is amazing. His articulation is amazing, his transformation, even though he's a parts former, but that's the thing I like about him, because that's his whole gimmick. He's supposed to split into 3 different battleships. Like, I found this figure to be more enjoyable than the Titan class arc from Kingdom and Cybertron Metroplex, which were my only Titans. Now, because I don't have the space for other Titans, like Siege Omega Supreme, Earthrise G1 Scorponok, like Genselex Black Zarak, or the Titan class Decepticon Nemesis from Legacy Evolution, this is a Titan that surpassed all expectations. Because as someone who doesn't really have the space for Titans or combiners like that, I was blown away. Like, the amount of times I've transformed with him, played with him, I even brought him with me to TFCon because his voice actor, Doug Parker, was there. Of course, I couldn't show him Tidal Wave. I had shown him his other character, which was Pterosaur. But no, I had to bring him, and I let some of my friends, well, the only friends who showed up at TFCon that I finally got to meet in person, they got to play with him. They did a lot with him, and I really don't know what to say. The ratchet joints are sturdy. I'm not even going to try and move him, considering he's big as hell. Like, again. And yes, I had to put on the blast effects on his nipple cannons. And yes, I'm going to say that because it's a joke. He has nipple cannons. That enough said. Now, these could be crotch cannons, but they're technically not on his crotch. They're on his hips, so therefore they are hip cannons. Y'all better not get the wrong idea. And I have to adjust my camera just to even get him into the video, because, again, he's a Titan, so he's going to be big as shit. Enough of that aside, I think there's a reason why Tidal Wave made it onto my number 1. Because for a Titan who was kind of cheating, now, yes, he is cheating because he could have been, he could have still been in my top 10, but he would have been in the lower end. But no other Titan has made me this happy. Because the amount of times I played with him goes to show how much I love the character, I love the design, the alt modes, the transformation, the articulation, like, everything. Everything about Tidal Wave just screamed to me. In a really good way, and a way that really, really surprised me. And that is a wrap. I want to thank everyone for joining me and looking at my ranking of every legacy, well, mostly every legacy figure that we had gotten in 2024, as some of the ones that did not come out in 2024 came out this year, 2025, or I was late to the party and I did not find them until 2025. So whether or not I'll make another video in terms of ranking, because my next ranking video is going to be on Studio Series, and I'm going to do 2 separate videos on the movie Studio Series figures, and then one on the Studio Series 86 and Gamer Edition figures, as Gamer Edition 86 belong with Legacy United and the other current generation lines going on right now. But with that said, I want to thank everyone for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Follow me on Discord, join my server, or follow me on Instagram. You know where to find me. And I will see you guys next time.